cmpradio.net. It's the station.
Yeah, they got it, Bobby.
What's up, everybody, man? It's your boy, Uncle P. If you would like to be a sponsor of cmpradio.net, man, hit us up at info, that's INFO, at cmpradio.net. It's the station.
Cultivating mature positivity. cmpradio.net.
Hi, my name is Donna, also known as Donna Janel, CEO and founder of Parenting with a Purpose. Our strive here at the podcast is to reach every home, whether it's single moms, married, single dads, whatever it is, foster parents, whatever, just bringing the ownership and responsibility and nobility back into parenting. Get comfortable with uncomfortable conversations. All parents need some help and guidance, and I'm just here to be a guide. Hey everybody, welcome back to Parenting with Your Purpose. I am your host, Donna Janel, where I am pleased to encourage to motivate parents on how to live their best life, pretty much what it is. The aim is to bring back the beauty, nobility, and responsibility back into parenting. And how do we do that? Attacking every issue parenting, the good, the bad, the indifferent. Parents come in all shapes and sizes, genders, cultures, races, there's really no limit to parenting. So my job here is to bring parenting on every level to everybody, whether it's young adult, teenagers, older adults, grandparents, great-grandparents. If you're raising someone's child or your own child, you pretty much are the parent. So that's the definition of parent. So raising and being responsible for bringing someone else up. So here today is, I have a special guest, which is my daughter, Lizzie.
Hi.
And today we're going to just talk a little bit about the pillars of parenting. There's a couple things that I've written down or I go by to help me with parenting, to help other people. And I wanted to bring Lizzie on today, so as I'm talking about these topics or these strategies or these techniques, and also get your child point of view from it, because again, parenting is not easy. It is a hard knock life out here for parents. It's no book is written for that. I can't even give you a book on parenting. All I can do is give you some tools and techniques to help encourage you to live your best life as a parent. So we have Lizzie here today. Hi. And Lizzie, tell the people your age or a little bit about yourself.
I'm 17. I'm still in high school. I guess I don't know really too much to say. I am interested in sports. I try to get out as much as I can, and I'm really excited to be on the show today.
Oh, cool. Which is so awesome, because I actually was going to do the show tonight by myself, and Lizzie was like, she'll go on the show with me, which I thought was pretty cool, because she didn't want me to rock out here by myself, even though she know I can hold my own.
Yeah.
But it's much better when you can dialogue with somebody, have a good dialogue. All right, so the first thing we're going to talk about, one of the pillars of parenting. Like I said, there's 8 of them that we kind of went over, and we're just going to just be raw and real and, transparent about it. So one of the things is, one of the pillars is primary care. What does it mean to be a primary care? When you look at it, I'm a nurse by trade, so when I think about primary care, you think about a house, right? You think about the main person in the house or your main doctor, and everybody else who needs to come along, which is your village, is like the specialties, the subspecialties. Like say, you got your primary care doctor, you got your dermatologist, you got the gastroenterologist, you have all these other people who are here to help you get to your next level or be your best you, right? So with the primary care though, the primary care is the umbrella, it's the house. It's like, all right, everything starts with me and ends with me. So being a primary care, whether you're a mother or a father, whoever you are, you're still the primary care because everything starts with you and ends with you. And with that primary care portion, you're responsible for like so much. So what do you think about that primary care portion of it?
I think it's really easy to see it in parenting. That's mostly like just them showing how they're the leader of the house, the head of the house. And I think it's really important to be able to see something like that so that I know, like, where I'm going next and how I can be a leader just like them.
Right. So when we talk about primary care, we're not talking about, I'm this super boss or I'm a dictator or you do what I say. Yeah. Even though sometimes I get some moments where, listen, just do what I say, please. Like, don't make me have to explain this to you. Growing up, where I've grown up from is like, you weren't able to ask parents questions. You weren't able to ask adults questions. So it was really do as I say, not as I do as I say, and don't ask me questions. But in this day and age, because children are so, they want to know, if I think back on it, when you think about school and math, right? Yeah. Before you guys came out in school, right? In math, they used to tell us 1 + 1 = 2, just because 1 + 1 = 2. Yeah. But now you guys have this integrated math, right? Yeah. So before, when we were younger, we were like, why can't you explain to us why this equals this, right? Mm-hmm. But now that you guys are coming up, you guys have this integrated math. It's like you could do the math in like multiple ways and explain in multiple ways. So that's kind of the same way that most of us, our older generation, grew up with parents. It's like, you don't ask too many questions. You literally just do, but you really don't get a good concept of why you're actually doing something. You're really doing it out of obedience, right? So with this day and age, and with the parenting, it's a lot different. Well, some parents still parent the same way, but I'm one of the parents that I allow my kids, you guys, to have an opinion and ask questions respectfully. Now, sometimes I'm not even going to get in front. Like, it gets out of hand sometimes, especially with my one that tests my inner gangster. The questions come, but then it becomes a little bit, it's like a thin line between respect and not respect. Yeah. And when you allow, at least that's one of the challenges I have sometimes, is allowing my children to have an opinion, but yet knowing that opinion is needed, not at all times. Yeah. So what do you think about that?
I feel like it's really important, and I feel like just instead of cutting off the opinion that like kids have so that they're not really suppressing it, I feel like it really helps because, with my mom, that's kind of what it was. We wouldn't be able to ask questions. 1 + 1 was 2. But like, as we could see, like the transition with you, when we ask you questions, is a certain way you can ask questions in life in a way that's more respectful to people, in a way that still gets you the answers. So that way we're learning how to communicate with people in a way that has strong communication skills.
That's good. Some people tell me that I allow my children to have too much opinion. And sometimes I think I do too. Like, you know what? It really wasn't until these teenage years, Yeah. I have, the 2 15-year-olds and a 17-year-old in the house, and sometimes things gets a little buck wild there, I would say, and then I get a little frustrated because it's just like, be quiet, don't say nothing. I know I've allowed you to talk all these years, but I need you quiet at this moment right now because it's just not going to benefit neither one of us. Yeah. But overall, I think it's important for us to really allow our children to have a voice, right? Yeah. So you said the primary care, you view the primary care person as a leader. Mm-hmm. as the head of the house, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's kind of how I view a primary care when I think about, like I said, everything is always going to go back to me for the medical field because I think it's just so, the way that God has things set up in life, and you think about the medical field, like even the body, how everything has its own part to play in. So I think we're going to go back to the medical a lot tonight, just because that's just really my life.
Yeah.
The other part was like the second pillar of parenting. We're talking about protection. So what does that look like? What does that pillar look like? Because when we look at pillars, you know, we're looking at we're looking at Maslow hierarchy of needs, pretty much. So we talked about the primary, the base of the house, like we're here, we got the umbrella. So then under that, we're looking at protection. What does it look like to protect? Parents have protection, and then they also have to protect their children. Yeah. So I guess for me, like when I think about protection, making sure that everything that I do provides a safe environment for myself, and then also for my children. Yeah. So when it comes to protection, if you see, for example, like from a child perspective, from a teenager, because I can't call you child, you're in that teenage range. When you see your mom or you see me protecting myself, what does that look like for you? What is the perspective it has on you?
For me, I kind of like seeing it because it goes to show like how confident and how sure of yourself you are, and how willing you are to take the steps that you need to take to show that you are there. And it's another way of showing an example of how I can be a better person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think protection is also that no matter what your child goes through, they should know that you still have their back.
Yeah, like they're safe.
Like they're safe, like they can safe come to you and talk to you about anything. Yeah. Even if it's something that they did wrong or something like that, right? I think. But I don't know. For me, as a child, I'm an adult child, but like I don't like to disappoint my parents. I don't like to, like, if I've done something wrong or got into something that my brain should have told me I shouldn't have did it. Yeah. Like to actually have that conversation with your parent, for me, it's a little hard for me because I don't know. We talked about this before of like trying to have like be perfect or like have what, you know, like a porcelain lifestyle, almost like where you've put yourself so much perfect that nothing bad can happen to you, or if you do something, you have a flaw, like as if the person who loves you and protects you will be so upset with you where they discourage you. Yeah. I think that's something I'm actually still dealing with as I'm 43 years old, is disappointing my parents. Yeah. How do you feel? Like, do you have like any thoughts about disappointment, or like is there things that you keep away because of disappointment or things like that? I
feel like, well, because with me and you, like you've seen, like me in the moments we've tested out when I said something that might have disappointed you, and even if it did disappoint you, I feel like there's strength in our relationship has like helped me feel safe enough to know that even if I mess up, that you're gonna still be there. And I feel like that's where the protection is. It's like protection not only from the outside world, but from myself, from like the fear of like messing up. And I'm not gonna lie, I still like, you know, the idea of porcelain, I think it comes from like a lot from the outside environment and sometimes like small things, but I still feel safe to talk to you about things that when I mess up or anything.
I like that what you said though. You said that was good, because you said not just protection. When you look at parenting and you look at the primary caregiver, it's not just protection from the outside world, but it's protection from the inner world, which is yourself sometimes. Yeah. Because we can self-sabotage ourselves. We can start thinking extra things about ourselves, but you need somebody to protect you enough from yourself. Yeah. That's good. I like that. I'm going to have to write that down. All right, so that's the protection thing. So the other, one of the other pillars that we were talking about was making close relationships.
Close relationship.
Right? So what making close relationship is like, we were talking about on the way here in the car, is like, you know, knowing your child, building that relationship with your child. Yeah. And before we even can build a relationship with a child, I'm just going to speak from the parent point of view, and you're going to speak from the daughter point of view, right? Yeah. So when we talk about building close relationships, building a village, so that you as the primary person, but you also again have these specialties or these subsidies, which is your village, so that you building a relationship with these people that you can trust. So then, therefore, that your children can trust. Like if your children see that you trust this person or trust that person, then they can be able to build close relationships, because nobody's an island. We all need somebody, right? Yeah. And we all need healthy people in our lives. So building close relationship as an adult, as a mom, then also bringing that close relationship, those skills, into building a relationship with my own children. Yeah. You know, when you said, like, when we talked about building relationships, it's like, how do you become close to somebody? Yeah. How do you feel comfortable to become close to somebody? And also, I'm looking at our little notes here. Also, you were just saying, one of the things that you wrote down, though, was like, know your child. Yeah.
I definitely feel like I agree with the community, having a community, but like when you know your child and you know exactly how to react when there's something going on with them, then the community, while it is helpful, sometimes you don't have to really go with certain things that they say, because not everybody's right about everything. And I feel like maybe in the situation where somebody says, hey, she needs to go out and get some candy, she needs a massage, and you're like, no, she needs to find out a way to focus. And you would be right, because you know how I work, because we live together and you know me, and we've grown together. So that like helps when that.
I think that kind of helps too, because like, say there's a situation, and like, I don't know how to handle it, because I'm so frustrated with the situation, and then I rely on to my close relationships, my village, and they like beat her dead, beat her. You know, because a lot of people know my stance on physical. You know, I believe in, you know, disciplining a child, but for a long time I've had a hard time physically disciplining my children. So that kind of backfired a little bit, but because each child is different, each child needs something different. Yeah. So I remember there's times as you guys were growing, and I would be so frustrated. I would be like, listen, this is just crazy. Nobody's listening to me. What am I supposed to do? And I would confide in someone, and they would like beat them, spare the rod, spoil the child. But everybody's different, and every situation is different. Like, for example, you and Donna was coming from where both of your parents were deceased. So me just trying to beat y'all into submission or beat y'all into obedience really wasn't meeting your emotional needs. Like, I had to figure out, like, what is the best way so that you get what I'm saying, but not crush your spirit or hurt you. You know, the Bible talks about mother and fathers don't provoke your kids. And it also talks about, because we always talk about the scripture where it says, children, obey your parents so you can live long, right? But then also in that, there's something that the parents have a responsibility for, and it's do not provoke your kids, you know? And it's also, I remember, and I told this story before several times on here, when you were really angry and you was going through something, you was flipping out, you was slamming doors, and you was doing all that a couple years ago, and I would always run up after you, screaming and yelling at you, like, not in my house. You're not going to be shutting doors in my house. You're not going to do this in my house. But it took Joshua to say, Mom, you're antagonizing her, you're provoking her, you're adding more food to the fire. And I didn't really realize that, because out of that, I literally done what I saw growing up. Like, you're not going to disrespect your parents. You're not going to walk away from your parents. You're not going to slam. You're not going to show any emotion. So if you did, there would be consequences for that. Like, and that's how I think a lot of parents, especially in the teenage years, a lot of parent-child interaction become a little bit traumatic, because we as parents, it's like, this is my house, I'm right, you know, you don't get to do that here. But then you as a child want to express yourself too. Like, how are you supposed to express anger? Yeah. Right? Because one of the other things is that every time that you would go off like that, you would come back and apologize.
Yeah. And I feel like it's because even after the moment I got to myself to get myself together, and that was like when I was like, I didn't really know what to do with the feelings I was feeling. And it would take me longer to figure out how to react. And so when I was like met up with the conflict without like any hesitation, I didn't have any time to like really fully process how can I handle this in a more responsible way, I would like act out and lash out. And I feel like after when I realized, you know what, I was the one who was wrong. I shouldn't have treated her like that. I shouldn't have yelled at her because this is her house and this is the way to show respect to her. And I don't get to just do that. Yeah, I feel like it's just a time.
And I think also like just allowing time to happen. Like, you know, I think it's important for us, the parents, to know that kids, we're emotional beings. Like, children have emotions, and as adults, we know how to control our emotions. Well, most of us know how to control our emotions in any given situation, but our children are learning how to control our emotions, because emotions aren't good or bad. They're emotions. That's something that we were given. It's just, how do you utilize this to have the maximum benefit from it? How do you utilize these emotions? How do you handle situations? And I think sometimes as parents, we got to allow our children to get a little emotional, because if not, you know, we're going to have a porcelain lifestyle. Like, I'm going to keep saying the word porcelain because I do remember. And you know who told me the word porcelain was my oldest daughter, Faith, who's 24 now. She said to me, she was like, Mom, you have a porcelain lifestyle. And I really couldn't understand what that really meant, because I'm like, listen, I'm doing everything for you. I'm so transparent. I'm so open. But having a porcelain lifestyle is literally trying to have a perfect lifestyle, perfection. And with that, it pulls you away from any emotion. It pulls you away from any understanding, because it's like my way or the highway.
Yeah.
So another one we were talking about is positive self-perception.
Yeah. I
Go
feel
ahead.
like it's really important to see in your leadership in parenting, like people who are confident in themselves, because then you like know which steps to take. I said this before, but it's like it really does help to see what it's like to be confident in what self-respect and self-esteem and like just taking care of yourself looks like. So that way you can just do it yourself.
Like, for me, the whole self-perception is like, how do I view myself? How do I feel about myself? Because, I mean, there was times, you know, where I didn't think so well about myself, and you would see that on my outside appearance. Like most people, I mean, it's been a long time, but when I didn't feel good about myself, like, I didn't really care how my hair was done. I really didn't care if my skin was moist. I really didn't care about pedicure and manicure. I'm not saying that they're the only way that you can perceive yourself, that beauty factor, but like whatever is going on internal will come externally. So if if you're sick inside, you're going to start looking sick outside. Right? So anything, you know, and again, we're about to go back to this medical thing. So anything that you put in your body that's not good for you, that's poison or is toxic, it comes out on your skin. Right? So if you think about alcoholism, you start seeing it in their face, in their body. Like the skin, the turgor of the skin just changing. If you think about anybody that's on drugs, which putting a poison, their skin is different. You know, you can see somebody who one day, I would say 1 month look like they're 25, but the next month they look like they're 75 because of the drugs. It comes out in your skin. Even cigarette smoke, whatever you put in your body, food, you see it comes out on your skin. You get extra adipose around areas that you shouldn't have.
Acne, everything.
Acne, right. So whatever is in you will come out of you. No matter how much you try to tame it, it's just going to come out of you. So for me, learning over the years that a positive self-perception is so important, because I have children and I want you guys to grow up and not expecting somebody else to tell you that you're beautiful or that everything is A, B, and C, but you have to perceive that for yourself. Because I do remember a time when I first got you and Donna, actually, so we've been rocking out for 9 years, but I remember how I used to tell you guys that you were so beautiful and that you were good and a lot of stuff, but it wasn't until you grabbed a hold of it for yourself. Remember, like, even for education, I'm like, you can do this. I was so positive, but that positivity had to seep down inside and then come back out of you.
Yeah. And I feel like I feel like seeing you know, get up every day and do like the basic stuff, it motivates me, even like if I'm having a hard time, if I'm having a bad day. I'm like, you know what? She's getting up and she's taking care of herself. I should get up and I should take care of myself and brush my teeth, do the basic stuff, and show myself that I love myself and I respect myself. And like same thing for like the diet wise. Like when I see you going out to get a salad, I'm like, you know what? I really should go get a salad too. And it definitely shows.
Yeah. And I think so, as parents, we got to know that our children are watching. That's like so important. Like, I'm sorry, it's like a mosquito in here, so I do apologize. But our children are watching every move that we make, and they don't necessarily just listen to us, they watch us. And watching how we live life really kind of set kind of the foundation of how children will live their life.
Yeah.
The other thing, we kind of already dug into the emotional competence part, though. Like, if I'm emotionally fine, you guys will be emotionally fine. I think about it like this. Like, you know, we always have the saying that you can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah.
I think about, like, you don't want to bleed all over your children.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if you got a wound or something that you're not healed from, or you're not emotionally stable with it, like, that will pour over in your children, and like you're bleeding all over your children, and then expected them to be okay, but they're drowning in your blood.
Yeah. It does not work out. I mean, I wouldn't really know too much about it, but like seeing with my friends and things, like how much they act like their parents, like how many things that they caught on from their parents, like. Some of them, they just be rude for no reason. And it's like, well, my mom do this, my mom do that. I'm like, your mom shouldn't be doing that either. And I don't know, it's different when you see how it, like, goes down, like, the generations and, like, how different and how weird it is. And I just be like, oh, my goodness. Thank goodness that's not me.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's so, again, like we said, like, it's whatever you grew up around with, however you're being parent. And a lot of us parents, you know, parent out of how we've been parent or how we wasn't parent.
Yeah.
Like, it goes two ways. It's like, if you're parent a particular way, like hardcore, you know, if your parents were really nice, but you didn't like the parenting. Yeah. So when you get older and you try to parent, you try to stay away from how your parents parent, or you parent just like they parent. Like, it's such a hard dynamic to try to figure it out, especially when you really don't know who you are, and you just really start doing things because this is all you know. And then, but that also, like you said, it goes into generations, and you begin to damage people. Like, you begin to bleed all over people. Like, I don't want to be graphic, but bleeding is what we doing.
I feel like that goes hand in hand with like knowing your child, because you will be reacting to how they are, and not only going off of what you feel in your personal history, but you know them, you built that relationship with them, that's strong enough to you're like, maybe I shouldn't be acting like that. And
right.
It just is sinking again.
I think even though, you know, a lot of us, we see how parents respond, we see how our parents act to us, but I think there's also something, like some innate thing in us to tell us, like, this ain't right.
Yeah. That's
wrong. Maybe I shouldn't be acting like that. And not only from the response that you get for someone, but just from your internal. It's like, nah, this probably ain't cool. Let me try to adjust myself, even though this is all I've seen. But something's
something's not right here.
Something's not right.
Yeah.
We also talked about self-management as a pillar. So we've gone through quite a few, but we still have some more. So we talk about self-management, how that comes into, though, the emotional competence about pouring from it. You can't pour from an empty cup. Like, if parents, if we learn how to take care of ourselves, and it's not selfish, again, because we're the primary house, we're the primary care. So if we learn how to take care of ourselves emotionally, physically, financially, social, educationally, relationally, if we learn how to take care of ourselves in these areas, not perfecting those areas, though, because, again, we start to become almost like dehumanizing ourselves, or living a personal lifestyle. So not in a matter of dehumanizing ourselves, but just allowing us to in those areas work on ourselves, so that we too can be better, not just for ourselves, but for those who are around us. And if you don't take care of yourself, you know, I remember, I could say, like, 2020, I had the 3 strokes. Why did I have the 3 strokes? life was hard. I was working. I was in school full time. I was working full time. I was overnight working. I was going to school during the day. I was taking care of you guys and literally made no time for myself besides work, school, kids. Oh, and I was fully active in the church. So I was running around doing everything for everybody, but nothing for Donna. Yeah. And then that put me in my body, because our body responds to stress, even when we try not to be stressful, but our body is based on chemicals. So when you're stressed, you release those chemicals, and your body responds where you don't have any choice because it's a chemical-based system. But doing all that and forgetting to take care of myself, or maybe not even forgetting and just ignoring myself as if I'm good enough to help everybody else, but I'm not good enough to spend that time with myself. It's something that I think a lot of parents may deal with because we're so used to going. And I said this on the show a couple weeks ago, like, we don't have to be the sacrifice. Yeah. Like, sometimes we get, again, that thought pattern of, like, we have to have everything right. But it's literally, we just need to care for ourselves to understand that everything is not going to be perfect, but we're working towards making sure that we're okay. Right. Because if I don't manage myself,
then how are you going to help manage other people? Right. How are we going to learn how to be manageable? And I feel like that's really, it goes hand in hand with the, like, routine, too. I feel like getting up and having a routine in the household. So, like, you not only every week, this Wednesday, we're going to take time to myself. Mm-hmm. You tell us when you need time for yourself, and we recognize that, and we see it, and we use it as, okay, maybe this should be my rest day, too. Mm-hmm. And we learn about that.
I think that is so important, the self-care management, because, you know, I got a schedule. I write everything down, and I'm trying to allow this schedule to be a little bit more flexible so that I don't get upset when things don't go the way that I like them to go. But because I feel like every area of my life is so important and everybody is so important, that I schedule things so that I'm making sure that I'm fulfilling my needs and then also fulfilling my children's needs, fulfilling my family needs. But not also the fact that I'm a sacrifice, but also the fact that I'm just showing you through my actions about love.
Yeah, a balance.
Balance, right. And I think with balance is prioritizing. Yeah. You know, part of that self-care thing, that self-care management is also knowing that when to say no. Right. Like, somebody else's urgency is not your emergency. Like, I'm not the firefighter. This is not, I am not putting out your fire today. Like, you're going to have to call another company because I got things I need to take care of myself. But how does that look, or how do you as a child perceive that when it's coming from your parent?
I feel like I perceive it as, like, a strength. Now that I really recognize, when I was younger, I didn't really get it. But, like, now that, like, I'm older, I really recognize this is something that's important in everyday life. Knowing when to say no, knowing what is right for me, what's not right for me, and still be able to balance what it's like for, like, my relationships and for generally a relationship with myself. I think having self-respect and self-love is the most important thing, so you're not just pouring out an empty cup.
Yeah. I think that you said something. You said a lot of self, because you're so in tune with yourself. You're very centered. But I think that it's important to know for yourself, like, what yes and what no means. Like, because even if we teach ourselves, you know, discipline ourselves about yes and no, so then when others come around, we can say yes or no and be comfortable with our no. Like, it's okay to say no. That doesn't work for me. That's not working for me. I understand you feel that way, but for me, because you know yourself and you know what works for you and allow you to be centered, to be the best you possible. Right. And I think that's pretty good at 17 to really start to get that, though. Because there's, like, in this world that we live in, you know, there's so many people who are telling you what you can and cannot do or what you should do. Yeah. Pretty much, it's not really telling you what you can't do in this world. Everything in this world is telling you you can do this, even if it's not right. The world is saying that it's like an open field. Yeah. So if you don't have that self-discipline, I always say that I never want to send my kids out naked. Mm-hmm. like close them with stuff.
Yeah.
So if you don't have that self-discipline and that ability to say no, that you're going to go, you're going to be yes for everything and end up in a wrong situation.
Right. And I feel like seeing, like, because we've had conversations like this, I'll ask you stuff about, like, things that I don't know because, I don't really want to go out either. I'm not trying to go out, like, butt naked right now. I'm trying to be like, okay, maybe this is a safer option. I will talk to you about certain things so that the way I go and approach certain things, and whether I know it's right for me or not, that way I know from your experience the things that you know, and even sometimes from the team or the community that's helping, so I get multiple perspectives without having to put myself through the mistakes. Not that mistakes are wrong, it's just that, so that way I'm not getting myself in the wrong place.
Like you ain't gotta do drugs and know drugs is wrong.
Yeah,
right.
that kind of thing.
That
So
kind of
I
thing.
know
Like I don't have to do drugs to know they're wrong. I see
she
what's
had
good.
a bad experience. She had a bad experience. I'm not gonna do that.
I'm good. Like I think that's so important to allow yourself to glean off of others,
Right.
as you grow. Some like we live in a day and age though. Sometimes like children or teens or young people don't want to hear what older people have to say.
Yeah. That's a thing.
Yeah, like we ain't been here before or whatever. Yeah. I constantly tell y'all, listen, you 15, well, you 17 now, but the younger ones give me a little bit hard time. You 15, you know how many times I've been 15? Listen, I'm about to hit 15 3 times, okay? I've had some experiences, but again, parents, as we're telling our kids the experiences, not so that they could just be fearful, but more like a teachable moment for them.
Yeah.
The other thing we could talk about is resilience.
Resilience.
Not, allowing. I think for me, it's important for my children or anybody that I'm around that I'm pretty transparent. Yeah. And the good, the not so good, because I feel like it helps.
Yeah, it does.
It's teachable. And to be able to bounce back. Like, for example, you guys seen me have the strokes. You guys seen me go through cancer. You guys seen me, just go through so many things in life. And I think being able to come back from those things and use those as not this personal lifestyle that, oh, my God, nothing, but to learn from these things and understand that life is hard. Life keep lifing. There's going to be things that come up in life that's unexpected. But how do you handle it? Do you allow that to keep you down?
Or do you keep going?
Yeah. And so many times, because if you don't have this, it's easy to keep you down if you don't have these other pillars, right?
Yeah.
If you don't have these other things that's helping you to aid you to making sure that you can get back up. Right. And for me, a lot of it is from my relationship with God, though, because when I go through stuff, I'm like, I trust you, God. You built this all. You created it all. You know better than me. I'm your child. And if I'm going through this, if you're allowing this process to happen, there's something good has to come out of this. Not as if I'm still the sacrifice, but however, the things that I go through can be used to help someone else.
Right. I think it's really important to, know for, that it's real. Not like that is not real, but just to be real, to be comfortable in being real, to accept what's going on and accept that you're going to be able to keep going, accept that this is okay. It doesn't feel good right now, but it's going to be okay. And that God has a stronger, more resilient plan for this situation.
Yeah. I think sometimes, because we can even talk about the times where, we were living in a 5-bedroom single-family house, and then I got in a bad car accident, and I had to downsize, so we had to go into a 2-bedroom apartment. Yeah. So it was the 5 of us in a 2-bedroom apartment. So instead of saying, okay, the house, we can no longer have this house anymore, but in the 2-bedroom apartment, one of the things that I made that 2-bedroom into a 4-bedroom apartment, right? Everybody had their own personal space. We had curtains, and you wouldn't even know that
it wasn't
that we were living differently from when we were in the house. No, we didn't have the big space, but we had the love, we had the care, and I kind of made the house a home.
Yeah.
So I think that for you guys to see that may possibly when you get older and go through stuff that you say, okay, listen, it ain't all that bad.
Yeah. I think it definitely helped, like, seeing you adapt, still, like, being yourself and adapt, because, like, in every house we've been in, I know that you add your own personality into the house.
Right.
Like, you decorate, you should be a professional decor person, because you really you always put your personality in no matter what place we are in. And I feel like that's really important for, like, adapting in any kind of situation, no matter where you are. Hey, I'm going to put me in this.
Mm-hmm. And I think I can also remember a time, because as we're talking about resilience, like, I can remember a time where I didn't have any money at all, and our electric got cut off, and it was hot in the summertime. I think it was August. It must have been 200 degrees outside, right?
Yeah.
But I had a truck. I had AC in my truck, right? And we took blankets and we went into the truck and we tent out in the truck, because we was like, we not staying in the house in the dark, even though it was summertime, but it was hot.
Yeah.
And we all got in the truck and we literally slept in the truck all night with the AC. Like,
we were in there watching movies.
Yeah, watching movies on the phone and everything.
Yeah.
And I was like, I could have like just flipped out, cried, and said, listen, I'm a piece of crap. I'm not a good mom. I'm not doing this. But again, coming away from that portion of lifestyle, saying, listen, all right, this is what we got. We're going to rock out. And then allow you guys to see. I remember just telling you, listen, I ain't paid a bill. I ain't had the money to pay the bill.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. So that also that you know that it can happen, and then what do you really do? How do you bounce back from that?
Yeah, and I remember you let us, like, give ideas of how we're going to deal with this. Are we going to stay in the house? Or are we going to go in the truck? We got AC in the truck. How are we going to, like, make it comfortable and everything? I like how you let us help adapt. Like, we were all in a team together.
Right. The other thing that we have on the list is we're talking about, as we were talking about resilience, we're talking about being responsible for our own perspective of life. Like, as parents, you know, our children are our world pretty much, and we are their world when we first have them and they're growing up. And how we perceive the world is kind of how they're going to perceive the world. You know, sometimes as parents, you get so frustrated with the world. And listen, there's a lot going on. I'm not even going to hold you. We get so frustrated, but again, that's that part of bleeding on our children, so that, you know, when we bleed on them, giving them our perspective. Like, for example, if you're walking around talking about the world is going to hell in a handbasket, so then your kid grows up thinking the world is going to hell in a handbasket, have such a negative connotation about life that it really doesn't allow our children to grow. So one of the things that I strive to do, and I encourage other people to do, again, being positive, taking the best out of every situation, every dark situation, really, because if we're negative all the time, our children then become negative. Like you said your friend is rude, and you said, well, this is how my mom act. Well, that's bleeding on your children. Being rude, having a negative perception about life and love and kind and care, like, not so, I mean, you can hate some stuff. Like, I hate some stuff. Yeah. But not so much where, like, that hate is spewed on to allow a particular behavior.
Right.
Like, use that hate as a platform, or let it catapult you to something positive, not keeping you down. So what do you think about being responsible for a perspective? Like,
I think it's really important, because not only is our, like, perspective always built off of what we see in others, but, like, how we want to deal with it, how we go on to, like, keep going. Because it's easy to, like, just give up, like, a lot. And I like how optimistic you are, even when, like, I'm being pessimistic. I'm like, this sucks. I don't want to do this anymore. You're like, well, there's something that's good at the end of the tunnel if you keep going. And even while I have, like, that thought, I can accept the reality of it and still keep going and find the better out of it.
Yeah, I think perspective is so important. Like, you know, the mind, again, we talk about the mind. Here I come with the health stuff, but the mind is such a unique thing. And the body has so many chemicals that's really that's given us to create this homeostasis, create this balance of an inner balance, and then it becomes an external balance, right? So, as you know, I read an article before about it takes more muscles to frown than it does to smile. right?
Yeah.
So smiling, that's easy. But when you think about it, when you're trying to be mad about something, you're trying to frown, like it takes more effort to be mad. It takes more effort to frown. A smile is just, like that is so easy to do. But it may be easy for me to smile in dark situations, but not necessarily easy for someone else to smile in dark situations.
Right.
But if we can give a little bit of that light and say, listen, I'm telling you, you're going to feel better if you smile.
Yeah.
Like you won't use as many muscles and your body won't have to respond to the other chemicals, the happy chemicals would start, your dopamine and things like that would start versus the other chemicals that keeps you mad and angry and things like that. But I never, when I read that article about it takes more muscles to frown than smile, I started practicing at home. I was like, I was trying to do all these type of things. I was like, it takes work to frown. Yeah. But to smile, you're just like, hey, what's up? How you doing?
Yeah. Have you ever been around that one person that you cannot be angry around? Because they're always, either being funny or just, they always have that bubbly personality. Yeah. I feel like it's really cool to have somebody like that around.
I think definitely, because life keep life in, and you just gotta smile. One of the things that my sister says to me all the time is something wrong. Well, not just my sister, a couple of my friends. I have a prayer partner, Kelly, and she be she used to, early in our relationship, she would always say, something wrong with you, you stupid. But she would say it in such a playful and funny thing that I started saying, am I stupid, Kelly? But that's not what she meant. She just means you are so funny, you're so out there that it's just I keep her laughing all the time. And then, my sister says the same thing. Something wrong, Donna. Something wrong. But because, again, we live in such a dark, negative world that when you have somebody that's bubbling, it's not normal. It's abnormal. And people, but they like that. Everybody wants to be happy. I don't think anybody really wants to walk around being sad.
No.
I don't think any parent really wants to walk around and hurt their children. I don't think that, at least in my mind, that you wouldn't purposely, intentionally harm or not equip your child. Yeah. So with that being said, I'm hoping that as we continue these conversations that we become more equipped on how to handle life, how to handle our children, and how our children can handle us, because it's a relationship. Right. So it's not a dictatorship. It's a relationship where, like you said earlier, you said it's a team. Yeah. Although I'm the head of the team, but each person is necessary on that team. Right. Your opinion matters to me, and hope my opinion matters to you. Yeah. What else? What would you say to parents who are raising teenagers in this world? One of the things that I wrote down earlier today is that because I always just try to be the light and talk about being a light and hopefully raising my children to be light, but realizing that we do live in a dark world, but we also knowing that light is only useful in darkness. Right. Okay. Right? Yeah. So we complain about the dark world so much, but if we really get and understand that we're the light and that we're necessary, because you can't see light in light, right? You only can see light in darkness. I like them bars. Okay.
I definitely think for parents, with teenagers, the main thing that teenagers are always trying to do is be an independent person and find out who we really are. Mm-hmm. Because, it's not that we are about to be our own person. It's just that we're we're not about to be adults, but we're transforming into adults, into a world where we might not always have our parent to do everything for us. So I feel even though some of us will act like we don't really need you, we do need you, just in a different type of way. We don't need you to tell us everything what to do, but show us and help us when we aren't doing the right thing. And when we ask you something, be open-minded and accepting of the non-porcelain side, like you do when it's something happening. And just be there. Always just be there.
Yeah, I like that, what you said, and I'm trying to remember, because you just said, that was a whole mouthful, Liz. You always be trying to bring me to tears, but really accepting, you said something about accepting the fact that we want you there. It may seem like we don't want you there, but you just, we need to be there in a different way. Yeah. That part right there. Explain to me that what you talking about there.
Explain. Okay. So growing up when you're a kid, of course you need your parents to like give you everything.
Like micromanage your life.
Yeah,
pretty
like
much.
pretty much. So like when I mean in like a different way, I mean like the relationship kind of changes, not into like a friend type of thing, but like a person that you can talk to, a person that like, because different things, there's different activities as a teenager. You're going shopping, you're trying to become more of an adult, you're trying to do stuff for yourself. And sometimes you don't really know exactly how to do it. I don't want you to do it for me. I want you to teach me how to do it for myself, and respect that I am becoming older, and allow me to be older and give me that freedom a little bit, not too much, but like, you know, enough that is safe, a safe like environment where I can grow in a different way.
I think that's cool because as parents, you know, we want to raise our children so that they can leave and be okay and don't have to come back and be okay out there. And if they do have to come back, they have to come back. But I think earlier in my parenting, my perspective was like I was raising them because of just my life and what I experienced growing up. I was raising my children to stay with me. And that's crazy because it's like I was holding on to my kids because that's my love. That's where everything's at. Like I like not worship the ground my children walked on, but I was like such an intentional mother that micromanaging every situation, controlling everything, and yet trying to give a little freedom. But because it was out of fear though, like I was afraid that I would lose them to this crazy world. Right. And I think a lot of us parents parent that way out of fear. But over the years, you know, like with my oldest, with Faith, like the 24-year-old, like that's how I parent her. I parent out of fear. She couldn't go to her friend's house. She couldn't do this. She couldn't do that. To the point where she was in high school, she couldn't even work. I wouldn't allow her to work. And that was because I'm like, no, your academics, see, this is the portion of lifestyle I'm talking about. Your academics are important. You need to continue this straight A. You got a 4.25. That's what you need to have. Work is going to change that. Like really trying to control out of fear. And it's crazy because like we're really supposed to raise our kids so that they could go and grow and flourish and blossom, right. You know. All that sound good, but trying to walk in it is hard, especially when you face so many challenges. But over the years of having more children, I've learned and still learn of how to really parent for where you are and where you want to be in life. Not necessarily what I think you should be or want you should be. Like the fact that you're great going to Marines, right? Yeah. I would have never thought about that for my kids. Oh no, you're not going to Marines. What, you crazy? Did it? No, you need to go be a nurse. You need to go be a doctor. You need to go be a lawyer. Like you need to have this life that I thought was good for you, right, instead of allowing you to have your own opinion. So the more children you get, parents, it gets a little bit lighter. You're like, listen, that's what you want to do, baby, go ahead. Mama here, she supports you. Yeah. But even in that, still training or raising you enough that where you're comfortable in your own self and comfortable in your decisions, right, to figure out with guidance of where your next step should be.
And I think it might help to remember that, like, the kids are scared, too, to go out in that, like, outside world. And even though we are scared, we know either way we're going to have to be out there. So just help us take that next step. Mm-hmm. That's it.
So be a guy with you. Help you. Hold your hand.
Don't pick us up. Walk with us.
I like that. You said don't pick us up. Walk with us. I like that. All right, so there you have it. We are so happy that you guys joined us today with Parenting with a Purpose. Again, our goal here and our aim here is to bring back the responsibility, nobility, and beauty back into parenting. And remember, we as parents are bows and our children are arrows, and they will land wherever we send them as long as we're being effective and efficient parents to make sure that they get to their destination, that we're not sending our kids out butt naked, that we're closing them with something. So thanks again for joining us. We will see you next time. What? You laugh? Everybody, my name is Donna, also known as Donna Janel, CEO and founder of Parenting with a Purpose. Our strive here at the podcast is to reach every home, whether it's single moms, married, single dads, whatever it is, foster parents, whatever, just bringing the ownership and responsibility and nobility back into parenting. Get comfortable with uncomfortable conversations. All parents need some help and guidance, and I'm just here to be a guide.